Okay, so I'm going to be teaching you how to make a ceramic bowl out of cookie cutter pieces. These are some examples of the bowls. There's variations of things that you can do. For instance, the bottom of this one is a slab, and then the cookie cutter pieces are built up from that slab. This one, the cookie cutter pieces are right all the way from the bottom, and they work their way up. Either way is absolutely fine. So because I'm going to be using a shoe cookie cutter, I'm gonna go ahead and make a solid bottom and then build the shoe up from that solid bottom. So the first thing that I've done is I've used the normal size 1/4 inch rods, and I rolled a slab so that I can cut the bottom. And what I'm gonna do is take my bowl that I've lined with damp paper towels, not wet, not soaking wet, because you don't want the clay to get too wet. What I'm gonna do is press down so that the bottom of the bowl makes an imprint, and then when I cut the bottom, okay, you can kind of see that imprint. And when I cut the bottom of the bowl, it'll be the right size. And what I'm gonna do is take my finger and make sure the edges are nice and smooth on my circle. Also, another really good idea is it's really hard to cut a perfect circle. So what you might consider doing is finding something in the classroom that is the same or almost the same size as the bottom of your bowl. And then you could trace it, because it's really hard to trace the bottom of the bowl because it's underneath everything. You know what I mean? Like, you can go up in the cupboard on the right and there's bowls there that you could use. So then what I'm gonna do is place this in the bottom of the bowl. And one thing you wanna try to do is make sure that your paper towels don't get too crinkly, because they are gonna add a texture to the clay, because remember, clay does have a memory. Then what I'm going to do, because I don't want my bowl to be too heavy, and I am indeed going to be overlapping my shoes, because I feel that the shoe is such a shape that it couldn't stand on its own, like maybe those do. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the thinner rods, and I'm gonna roll my clay out with those, simply because when you're overlapping, a 1/4 inch thick piece of clay is really, really thick, okay? So you need to be aware, because around the classroom, some of the rods are gonna be different thicknesses. Look at them, make sure that you see that you're using 2 rods that are of the same thickness, okay? Your bowl needs to be a minimum of 3 layers high, depending on how big the bowl is that you choose, is how big it's gonna be around in circumference. Okay, so I'm gonna roll it so that it's that thin, and then I'm gonna go ahead and cut out several of my little pieces. And then I'll just show you what I'm gonna do. So when I take a piece out, you want to be very, very careful, because you don't want to lose the form or the structure of the piece. But as you can see, the piece is a little bit, I don't know, crusty on the edges. So I'm going to take my finger in some water, and I'm going to go ahead and smooth those edges up, because you want to be perfect right from the beginning. You don't want to do the smoothing later, right? So you take all these pieces and smooth them up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm gonna put it in here and overlap just a little bit. I'm not gonna set it right on there, so I'm only gonna score and slip the bottom. I'm gonna go ahead and overlap it like this, and then push the shoe into the bowl. I'm not gonna score and slip yet, because I have no idea how far apart the space should be so that it looks right and it comes out equal. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay all of the shoes down on the first layer. Make sure that they're fitting, because you might come to the end and you have a gap like this big, and there's no room for a whole shoe, so you don't know what to do. So what you'll do is first plan it out, okay? If you want to maybe do that, if you want to even cut one of these out on a piece of paper and then map it out all the way around so that you don't have to put them in and take them back out, that's a really good idea. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is put the next one in. Maybe I will overlap it like this. And you think to yourself, but wait, Miss Smith, you can't see the shoe. But you will, because of the outside will be showing and the one that's last will be showing. And one thing that you want to be sure though is that if you put it here, right? So every time you put a shoe or a piece of whatever you're making, a heart, whatever your shape is, make sure that you are consistently putting it in exactly the same spot every time. So if the heel overlaps the toe on this one, then the next one should do exactly the same thing, okay? So if the heel's there, then the heel should be there. If there's a negative shape there, there should be the same negative shape right here, okay? You do not have to make your bowl solid so that you can have holes or negative shapes within the pieces, okay? And that's perfectly acceptable. But remember, this is again a functional piece of pottery. So if you want to eat cereal or do something like that out of the bowl, then of course you don't want to have holes. You want to overlap them so that it's perfectly closed up, okay? So then once I go all the way around and I realize that this is it. This is, you know, it fits nice. It looks the way I want it to look. What I'm going to do is take my tool and I'm gonna have to take them out. What I might want to do is mark each one like this, like a tiny little mark on where they will go. And then I have to take them all back out again, like that. Okay, once I know exactly where they're gonna go, and then you're gonna need to score them, and then score where it's gonna go here on the bottom, and then of course add your slip. Now be careful that you don't score too far up the cookie cutter, because the outside of the bowl, just because you can't see it now, the outside of the bowl is going to be very important also, because when you set it down on a table, you can still see those outside pieces. So you don't want to have score marks on the outside of your cookie cutter pieces. So be careful that you only score where you absolutely need to score. And then when you press it down, don't press it so that you lose the form of the cookie cutter, because that's the whole purpose of this bowl, is that you maintain that form. I've had some kids go in and smooth the whole thing up, and I'm thinking, why'd you even use a cookie cutter? You could have just rolled a slab and threw it in the bowl, right? So when you're doing it, be very meticulous about your scoring, be very meticulous about how the cookie cutter pieces are placed, that they are evenly placed all around. You can use also more than one shape if you want to. You could use, say, Mickey Mouse's head and a heart, or, you know, two things that go together, perfectly acceptable, okay? So when you do it, if you do go over, take a paintbrush with a little bit of water and smooth that up. I have no idea what's on that paintbrush. So that you don't get any of the score marks on the outside. Then once I do the bottom, then I'm going to do the same procedure, and I'm going to build up another layer all the way around the top. And then after I do that one, I'm going to do one more layer around the top, okay? Making sure that each piece is set exactly the same as I go around. You have to go slow, you have to be careful, okay? If you choose to do something, if you have a solid shape like a heart, like this person did not overlap the hearts, okay? They put the hearts side by side and they scored and slipped each one of them. That is perfectly acceptable. If you choose to do that, you might consider keeping your slab the 1/4 inch thickness, okay? The only reason that I made my slab a little bit thinner was because when I overlap it, it gets really thick and really heavy, okay? So those are some things to consider as you're building, and I will be around to help you. How many layers do you need to go up? 3. Right. Before you put things in your bowl, what needs to be there? Paper towels. Wet? Damp. Exactly. You don't want them sopping wet. So then at the end of the day, when you're not finished, if you don't finish with your bowl, perfectly fine. take the whole bowl. Let's say you have some extra pieces that you haven't even put in. Just lay them in here, or you could even take your paper towel and lay it like this, and then put the whole thing into a trash bag and close the trash bag, okay? Any questions? You're not gonna pull this out until it's in the leather hard, even a little bit past the leather hard state. And I'm gonna tell you, this is the most fragile project that you will make. It's the one that I have seen break more than anything else, okay? So in your construction, be very meticulous, okay? Don't leave too much negative shapes all the way around, because it'll be very, very fragile, okay? Questions? Okay, go to work. Thank you.